I'm pushing for you now. Okay.
Okay. So yes
Okay,
to
so it should trickle down. Okay.
yeah, it should have a gender-based lens. They should be
Yep.
looking at the lists of who's on the wait lists
Yep.
for affordable housing in our community, whether that's seniors
Yeah.
or households led by women, which is
Okay.
usually disproportionately high.
Okay.
Thanks.
Very good point. Very good point. Daniel, go ahead. Response to these questions about housing.
Hello, everyone. I'm here today representing Smart Centers. As I'm sure you all know, we're known for our shopping centers. And before I just speak a little bit further about this, I just wanted to thank the Town of Bracebridge for setting up this meeting. So I just wanted to provide some background information. We do actually have a shopping center in Bracebridge, and it is located at the just southwest of Highway 11 and Taylor Road. And for those of you who don't know, we do have a somewhat recent initiative and vision that has evolved in our company to transform our shopping centers to a form of mixed use developments over the long term. And we commonly use the phrase from shopping centers to city centers, as you can even see on our corporate website. So to answer it, it kind of ties into the first discussion question, which is related to housing and mixed use developments. We believe that in Bracebridge, there is an opportunity to appropriately develop our shopping center with some residential uses to create over the long term a mixed use community, because on our shopping center we have several great retailers, but we also have some underutilized land. And as Ontario's population continues to grow, we see this as an excellent opportunity to accommodate a portion of this growth here in an appropriate form. Just because in general, the land is well located, it has access to municipal services, it's near main roads, and there are retailers in close by walking distance that can meet the daily needs of the residents. So,
so it's an idea that you're want to pursue for Bracebridge.
Yes, in consultation with city staff, I think there is a good opportunity that can be explored. And
so tell the group where you've been implementing this model in other locations.
So we've been working through several municipalities, but I don't want to single out any particular one. We work all throughout Ontario at many of our shopping centers, and we look for different we look for lands that are underutilized, and they do have potential for mixed use development.
Uses. Right, for sure. So I just was wondering if there was something people might be interested in going to have a look at to get a sense of visualizing what you're talking about.
It really is all over Ontario. So feel free to browse our corporate website, and feel free to you can go to any sort of town or city and look at the planning applications, and you'll be able to find out more information. But Bracebridge is definitely one that we haven't we're in the preliminary process now with this OP, but we are evaluating it because there's some vacant lands there, and we'd be interested into further developing it with housing or other opportunities as well.
Okay, so in response to the questions that are on the screen, where should higher density housing be located? You're suggesting that it might be around existing retail and commercial uses.
Right. In
like the Smart Center. Yeah. Okay.
In an appropriate form, we do believe that it is a good potential opportunity to implement it. Because we do believe it can support higher densities there.
Okay. And what does higher density mean to you?
It would be something that we'll have to determine. I don't I'm kind of looking at it at a high level right now, but I mean, we'd have to go through the appropriate studies to determine how much this area can sustain.
Right.
But it would depend on what our consultants in the studies would determine.
Okay. Okay, awesome. I see in the chat box, we have a comment about employees working in those larger retail centers and the barriers of transportation. So, and then it goes on to say mixed use near grocery stores, hardware stores, schools, and parks make sense. Okay, so Hannah, you're kind of agreeing with this notion of maybe intensifying some of those larger commercial blocks with a broader mix of uses. And feel free to turn your mic on if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I see in that there's the opportunity certainly out that way, just
Yep.
like they've done in Gravenhurst, where they have
Yep.
their building now, right beside the Canadian Tire.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
I would also say that it needs to be both. It's a both and, right? There's some people that have transportation and would love to be closer to the highway and closer
Yep.
to those bigger stores. There's
Yep.
other people that need to walk to local elementary schools, and
Right.
we have the arena, we have the library, both, you know, as the previous speaker said, the former BMLSS right down. It's a shame that that's not already housing.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Let's just see. So I have another few people with their mics on. So let me get to some that we haven't heard from. John, is your mic on because you want to share some thoughts on housing?
Yes, just to let you know as background, I'm actively involved in a company that we develop affordable housing in the Niagara region.
Yep.
And just some thoughts from our experience in that area down there, which I think might be relevant to this area in Muskoka. One of the big issues is getting thoughts and applications and whatever permits through the municipal planning department. We worked long and hard with the various municipalities down in that region to try and give us some priority, because we are doing affordable housing. It's 100% affordable, as opposed to a mix of market and affordable. So I would suggest that perhaps council give some thought to prioritizing applications that are focused on affordable housing.
Oh, and are you getting that in Niagara? Are you
Yes, we
getting
are.
that prior?
Yes.
Okay, good to hear. Good to hear.
The other thing that's obviously an incentive would be the refund or even a waiver of permit fees and other application fees.
Yeah.
And lastly, there's an issue often with surplus lands that are owned either directly or indirectly by municipalities. And what is the best use of those? With affordable housing being desperately needed right across the country in every community, including Bracebridge, serious consideration should be given to passing those lands over at a nominal cost. And I say nominal, not for the benefit of profitability of the developer. It's really as an incentive to get the affordable housing underway. It's just been all sorts of talk. The government has talked for I don't know how many years and has put monies forward, but they're still not actually spending the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need things to move these things forward. And these are, from our experience, these are things that are happening down in the Niagara region with some success.
Okay. That is really good to hear. Thank you. Thank you, John. Back up to my list. So I have Chuck and I have Bob list. Chuck, do you want to go ahead?
I wondered what the current policy is for the town on tiny housing, because I know some people, other places who built tiny homes and really well. I'm wondering if they work here in Bracebridge.
That's interesting. Melissa, is that something that you can talk about, or do we defer that to Cheryl or Matt? Current policy on tiny homes.
Yeah, I'm not sure of a policy in the official plan currently on tiny homes, but maybe if there's something that, Matt or Cheryl can think of that relates specifically to that right now in the official plan.
Thanks, Melissa and Donna, and thanks for the question, Chuck. There's nothing in the official plan right now that talks about size of dwelling units. The zoning that the town has in the comprehensive zoning bylaw has some minimum dwelling unit sizes that would obviously be looked at once we're done this official plan review. So I think that's more limiting is the zoning bylaw, but there's nothing in policy limiting tiny homes at this time.
Well, okay, so then my recommendation is that you should have something very clearly that explains whether tiny homes are allowed. And they should be allowed, because there's
Yeah.
no- that housing is literally the most important, other than climate change, the most important factor in employment and all kinds of issues here in Bracebridge, as well as other places, obviously in Canada. So, you know, we did pretty good on, I mean, I happen to be one of the benefits of the Mattamy development. So, you know, that's fine for me, but, and the people who live in the Mattamy development have beautiful homes, but they're not affordable. I mean, no question. And
Okay,
the other thing I want to mention, in the original visioning statement, there's nothing about Indigenous peoples. And,
mhm,
you know, every council meeting starts out with a comment.
Yep.
about-
land acknowledgement, yep,
it should be included in that.
okay, let me just make a note back in the visioning. Okay, thanks, Chuck. Bob, did you have another
just-
comment? And then I'll go to Ian. Go ahead, Bob.
I wanted just to make a comment further to the comments made by Mr. Kingston. I am still engaged with a company locally that delivers attainable housing. And I have to say that we are treated exceptionally well and prioritized by the town of Bracebridge.
Mhm.
We are able to move through staff channels very quickly with 100% cooperation, as well as at the council level. There's no official plan policy that says that has to be done, but our experience is exceptional in Bracebridge. And all I need to say is I wish it were the same in other municipalities where we are currently developing. Having said that, I believe the background paper should be cleaned up a bit because to me, it confuses attainable housing with affordable housing with social housing. They're three different things. They require different levels of support. And that should be made clear in the background statement. Having said that, there are lots of things that can be done by the town of Bracebridge and the district municipality of Muskoka that would assist in reducing the cost of delivery of all housing types, but in particular, those three. And again, I'd be pleased to identify what those things are in another forum if you want, but there's lots of things that can be done to assist in reducing those costs. And I also want to conclude in that comment by stating that the town of Bracebridge together took a lead with the two other urban municipalities to ensure that economy was better than, to make the determination that economy was better than finance. I want to leave that with you because in our town, what certain factions wanted to charge as development charges for any of those types of housing were outrageous. And our municipality took a lead in standing up against that. And I hope that continues. To that effect, I believe that we should have something in our official plan that captures that philosophy so that every 5 years when development charge bylaws come up, we don't have to fight the same fight that we have the last 10 years when these things come up. And it's the same fight every time. So I'd like to see a policy that talks to economy rather than finance.
Okay. Do you want to follow up on any aspect of that, Melissa? Clarification on what that?
No, I think that's good.
Okay.
And I think that Bob's also offered to meet with us in another forum as well. to go
Offline.
over his-
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Bob. Scott, you've got your, oh, sorry, I'm gonna go to Ian first and then over to Scott, who's got your hand up. So Ian Robinson
me?
first. Yes, I can.
Okay, I don't see the condominium word mentioned anywhere.
Okay,
I think this has to do also with building height, and
yeah,
I think it has to do with lot size and its relationship to the waterfront. I think those things should be taken into account. A condominium,
you're
there's a
talking
lot
about
of people
ownership.
that could have a factor on the lake, usage of the lake and how it's used. And,
Okay. Okay,
thank you.
Scott.
Hi, with regard to the questions that are on the screen here, Oh, I should introduce myself first. So Scott Young, I'm the Executive Director of Muskoka Conservancy. We do nature conservation in Muskoka, and so we're looking out for ecology and natural habitats around Muskoka and Bracebridge in particular. We're located here. We have lots of nature reserves and properties in the Bracebridge area. And from that perspective, where should higher density housing be located? And my answer to that is in the urban area. We would not support an expansion of the urban boundary. We would encourage you strongly to keep the urban boundary where it is. From my understanding, there's plenty of land designated already for housing growth, particularly if you keep the higher density housing in the urban area. So that's something we would promote and support.
Okay.
And that's not without controversy. Of course, everybody knows there's areas that are designated urban in the official plan that are extremely contentious. And so, you know, protecting wetlands and things like that with regard to those properties is still essential. But again, I think if you focus your development and get your higher density housing close to the center as possible, I think that's going to help with affordability. It's going to help people who are working multiple jobs and maybe have lower incomes if they're closer to work, if it's easier for them to get to work. I think it's helpful to have that higher density housing close to the center.
Okay. Okay.
That's
Thanks,
my comment there.
Okay, thanks so much. Okay, I'm going to push ahead. That's a good segue into the next discussion topic, which is around environment. So I'm going to.
Sorry, Donna, to interrupt you. Just note that there was an additional comment in the chat from Tom Tooch about intensification near arenas, near the new arena, and near schools and retail as well.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Matt. Okay, so let's push on to the next topic on environment.
Thanks, Donna. So the next topic that we're looking into is the environment. The provincial policy statement includes policy related to biodiversity. This refers to the variety of life in our environment, the number of different types of species present, genetic variability of each of these species contained, the several ways species can be assembled in ecosystems. And the official plan does not currently include this wording in the official plan. The provincial policy statement also includes planning authorities shall protect, improve, or restore the quality and quantity of water by using the watershed as the ecologically meaningful scale for integrated and long-term planning, which can be a foundation for considering cumulative impacts of development. So the provincial policy statement does not require cumulative impact policies within an official plan, but this can be considered through the Town of Bracebridge official plan. This is brought up because the district official plan includes biodiversity wording in its OP, and it's presented as the biodiversity of natural heritage systems be maintained, restored, or where possible improved, which is provided wording in the provincial policy statement. The district also looks at discouraging planting and or use of invasive non-native species to minimize impact on Muskoka's biodiversity, and preserving biodiversity by protecting isolated populations of plant and wildlife species, species at risk, and habitats. So that's the first point. And cumulative impacts, as I said, which are set out in the district official plan, where consideration of cumulative impacts will be encouraged through development approval process. So that is included within the district official plan. Once again, nothing says that it shall be included within the town, but it's something for consideration. When we look at the lake system health policies, the District of Muskoka has been a national leader in monitoring, analyzing, and protecting water quality in its recreational lakes since the early 2000s. Since that time, the district has continued to update their work and the modeling system on which the current policies were based. As a result of the district's most recent work, it will be necessary for the town to revise the lake system health policies within the town official plan to more closely reflect the district's new approach to lake system health. So this is essentially to implement a higher standard of protection for all lakes through improved best management practices for new development and redevelopment on the lakes. So there are policies within the district official plan. And these policies with regards to lake system health, vegetative buffers, shoreline naturalization, soil protection, on-site stormwater control, limits to impervious surfaces, minimum setbacks for septic systems, larger lot sizes, and securities for compliance monitoring. So the town of Bracebridge currently includes vegetated buffers, shoreline naturalization, stormwater management, and septic system setbacks. However, through this review, the policies will be included to be in conformity with the Muskoka official plan. But as I mentioned before, the town of Bracebridge official plan can be more restrictive than the district of Muskoka official plan. It cannot be less restrictive. So the town could incorporate the policies as they're set out in the district of Muskoka official plan, or they could, as I mentioned, go more specific with regards to that. That could be an enhanced lake system health policy, which would exceed the standards established by Muskoka official plan, such as increased shoreline buffers or shoreline yard setbacks. Natural hazards is another element of the official plan that will be updated to be in accordance with the provincial policy statement going forward. So I think we'll go on to the questions.
Thanks, Melissa. Yeah, so a couple of questions just to have a bit of a conversation around this topic of the environment. So should there be consideration of the cumulative impacts as Melissa introduced? Should there be enhanced or standard protection policies related to the lake system health? So maybe we can have a bit of a conversation on this. Before we go on to the third question, I am going to keep my eye on the time too. We're just around 5 o'clock. Bob, go ahead.
Hey, I've already written a 4-page letter to you guys, which says some of this, but the district started its water quality objective program in 1980, and it enshrined that water quality objectives and land use policies related to those objectives in 6 area municipal secondary plans, which were secondary to the district official plan because the local municipalities at that time had no policy planning approval authority. The district was a single tier policy planning area at that time. So what's in the background paper saying that the lake health system started in the early 2000s is not incorrect because of the title, but more than 20 years before that is when the program actually started and was implemented by the district. Having said that, one of the earlier questions I asked was, well, what do we do if we know that there's something in the district official plan that's wrong and ought to be changed? And you've just entered into this mess of water quality and how we're likely going to run a problem that the district has set aside for at least 7 or 8 years. They know they have a problem. They will not address it. Should we support them to continuing to ignore the science, or should we tell them that we're not going to ignore the science, that we're going to do the right thing, and that they need to change their plan in order to accommodate that? What I'm talking about is molecules of phosphorus, which is the basis of the lakeshore capacity model, how it works on recreational water bodies, which the district has its policies on, but those same molecules of phosphorus have the same impact on lake trout lakes, but the district ignores that. We have, and you've noted in your background paper, several lakes that are lake trout lakes that have restrictions on them because of that, that shouldn't have those restrictions on them if we use the best management practices on those lakes as well. So I'm giving you a heads up that we got a problem on our hands here that we need to address.
Okay, so I don't want to get into the details of the science, but Melissa, is there something that you want to talk about just the general topic about water quality in the policies?
I think we're good, and I think Bob had spoken with us last week with regards to his issues with regards to the district official plan. So once again, we're happy to meet with Bob outside of this to get more of his feedback, but I think we discussed that last week as well.
Okay, let me go on then from Bob. I'm going to go over to Scott. Your hand is up. There you go, Scott.
Hi, yeah, again, from the Muskoka Conservancy, I would strongly advocate for the environmental protections, any level of environmental protections that you can put in place. We know that, you know, when developers want to develop, they're going to hire firms like Meridian and Bob to come in, and they're going to find ways to get it done. And so the more we can get standards in place that make it difficult to do development on the shorelines and backlot developments and things like that, the more we're going to protect the nature in Muskoka that's important, that makes this place, that gives its place its character. So
Okay. Thanks,
I
Scott.
support additional
Enhanced, okay, enhanced protection
environmental
policies. Okay,
protections. Yeah.
okay. Chuck, I'm gonna go to Chuck and then I'm gonna go on to the next topic. Go ahead, Chuck.
One of the things that has occurred here, we've had two 100-year floods in the last few years.
Yep.
I'm just wondering how we can deal with development on areas that are within the floodplain.
Okay. And what the policies would be around that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Ultimately, there should be no development in floodplain.
In those floodplain areas.
So
Okay.
so you can go on from there, but that's my point.
Okay. Thanks, Chuck. I'll take one last from Tom and then I'm going to move on. Tom?
Yeah, I just wondered if the first question is actually a joke. I mean, when you're drinking, should you just consider the impact of each drink? Or is it the cumulative impact? It's totally incomprehensible that the official plan would not
Would
include
not do.
the
Okay.
cumulative impact of development.
Okay.
And as for the second question, what we know is that environmental awareness and sustainability is a competitive advantage to tourist towns.
Mhm.
It's a competitive advantage in almost every place you go in North America where they take it seriously.
Mhm.
And for us to abandon that competitive advantage would be a remarkable oversight.
Okay. Okay.
Did I state those two positions
Yes, you
strongly
did
enough?
very well. Yes, very strongly. Thank you for that. Okay. Melissa, we're going to push on to rural lands.
Okay, thank you. So the discussion question number 3 is with regards to rural lands, and the official plan can consider policies related to rural lot creation and estate residential development. So once again, the provincial policy statement directs the majority of growth in municipalities to serviced urban areas, and it also permits residential in the rural area, which includes lot creation that is locally appropriate. So it's up to the municipality to determine the extent to which residential growth will be limited in other areas outside of serviced areas in order to be consistent with this policy. The 2020 provincial policy statement revised permitted uses on rural lands to remove the term limited in relation to residential development. So the policy wording is much more permissive in 2020 than it was previously. So generally the policies of the district official plan follow the provincial policy statement 2014 in that it permits limited rural development, directs most of the growth to the serviced urban area. But the district official plan does contain direction that the area municipal plan shall determine the extent of rural residential development that can occur under certain provisions. So the district provides strategies with respect to potential limiting rural development, such as allocation targets on rural lands, caps on the amount of rural lot creation by year, minimum lot size and frontage, and or limiting the number of consents permitted from an existing lot. The town official plan contains good criteria for new lot creation. However, a growth target or strategy to limit rural development is not currently in the official plan. So that's where we're looking for with regards to rural lot creation. And then estate residential development is largely large lot residential subdivision or condominium development outside of settlement areas. And the district official plan permits consideration of a state residential development. This would be an amendment to the local official plan. So when drafting the policies for the town official plan, policies could be included that if an amendment to the official plan was made, there'd be criteria that would be used to evaluate a state residential development within the municipality. So those are the two things we're going to be looking at for.
So a couple of questions to think about for a few minutes. Requirements with respect to that rural lot creation. Comments about policies around estate residential development. Anybody want to weigh in on those topics? Go ahead, Scott.
Hi, I would just, I'm sure you're familiar with the term of habitat fragmentation. And so every time we develop a new rural lot, every time we propose or approve a new rural subdivision or an area of estate lots, we're putting in new driveways, we're creating edge effects that have an effect of fragmenting the natural ecosystems that make Muskoka what it is. And so I think we need to be very cautious when approving rural lot creation. And so, I would recommend that we don't allow more permissive language than currently exists at this stage.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Any other thoughts? Bob, do you have something on rural development?
Yeah, when we did a review of certain constraints or influences that development had on certain types of natural habitats years ago at the district, we discovered a paper that had been prepared, two papers actually, by the Ministry of Natural Resources that indicated that the deer population in Muskoka had increased 400% more than what it used to be 80 years ago. That had been monitored over that time frame. The people from M&R had difficulty understanding how that could be when shoreline development during that same time frame had gone up more than 400%. So we engaged some biologists to look at that, and they figured out very quickly why the habitat that supported deer was increased and why the deer population could therefore increase. So I don't buy necessarily into what Scott says. I do generally agree that we have to be careful about what we do, particularly in rural areas. But there are some positive things as well that happen to the environment. They're not natural, of course. When you intrude man into them, you change that environment. But sometimes those changes can actually be beneficial. Having said that, I'd like the town to look at some housing that's been developed in other areas, in particular the town of Huntsville in Muskoka, and see what's happened there in terms of some estate residential development, which has essentially no impact or very little impact of significance on the natural environment, has provided the municipality with huge amounts of revenue and cost them in terms of delivery of service very, very little. It's extremely attractive.
And where is it, Bob? Where is it?
It's just outside of Deerhurst. It's called Woodland Heights in Huntsville.
Yeah.
And that type of thing, together with proper urban policies where we're going to put density in, but have some low density housing that's very attractive and a good generator of income for us, is something I think we should look at. I'm not advocating for it right now. I'm advocating we look at it and see if it's beneficial to us.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Bob. Anybody else on rural development or rural lands? Sorry. Okay. Pushing ahead, waterfront. Cheryl. Or yeah, Melissa, sorry. Waterfront.
All right. Thank you. So the provincial policy statement requires cross-jurisdictional matters to be considered. And this is important in looking at the waterfront as a major lake is shared with other municipalities. The district official plan states that area municipal official plans shall contain more detailed policies in the waterfront and a list of policies that are to be included. The town official plan is very general in terms of the waterfront policies currently and relies on the zoning bylaw to implement waterfront development. So there is an opportunity to review these policies and provide, one of the things we're going to be looking at is urban center versus waterfront policies for lands that are on water, whether these should be different within, depending on where the property is being located, and include the policies as set out in the district official plan that are required to be included that are currently not in the town official plan. And one of the other things that we're going to be looking at through the official plan is whether there's policy provided to permit the future of a community planning permit system within the municipality. So there are other municipalities within Muskoka. The town of Huntsville uses it throughout the entire municipality, and the township of Lake Bays uses it in their waterfront area currently. And community planning permit system could look at, combining planning processes to, expedite the process. This would be something that we need to incorporate policies that would identify an area that this could be looked at in the municipality, the scope, the goals and objectives for this area. So this could be considered by the municipality in the waterfront. That's why one of these things are listed for the waterfront area.
Okay. So a couple of questions about the waterfront. Should there be different policies? Urban center versus waterfront designation? Should there be more detailed policies with respect to waterfronts? Scott, is that a hand from last time, or is that a new hand?
No, I just put it up.
Okay, yep, go ahead.
The interesting thing about rivers, which of course the Bracebridge urban area is mostly located on a river.
Yep.
Or two rivers actually. Is that rivers actually need sort of lateral space to move. I think a lot of people think of a river as something that just moves in one direction in a sort of linear way. And I think in the past decade, we've seen 3 times that rivers actually take up lateral space, and they want to move in directions that aren't altogether obvious on a daily basis. When you observe the water flowing in a tidy, orderly direction in one way towards Lake Muskoka. We know that doesn't happen all the time, and I think we need to, when we're planning around the river, we need to take serious consideration that the river's eventually going to want to move sideways. It's going to flood its banks. It's going to want to erode the shore. And I think having some policies around protecting natural vegetation on the shore so that we don't end up creating a canal, because I think the longer we fight the river and the longer we attempt to deny that it's going to take up lateral space, the more we're going to channelize it, and it's going to become basically a canal from Bracebridge to Lake Muskoka. And I don't think anybody wants that. I don't think we want that in our town. I think we want to see the river as natural as it can possibly be. And I think we need to take that into consideration.
Okay.
The other thing I noticed on the previous slide was studies about, could you just go to that previous slide?
Yeah. Oh, 1 second. Sorry. There we go.
Boat impact assessments. I know the impact of boat wakes is something that is getting some serious attention around Muskoka. There's concerned people everywhere that there's certain type of boats, wake boats particularly, that are causing serious damage along the shoreline, causing shoreline erosion, actually causing millions of dollars of property damage and eroding people's property. And there's in cases where people have lost, hundreds of feet, square feet of their property due to these waves crashing in that were never contemplated by nature. So waves are much bigger than anything nature could throw at the shore. In addition to that, they're wiping out habitat. So they're wiping out loon nesting areas. They're wiping out like areas in the riparian area that is home to the majority of life in Muskoka. So I would strongly encourage the town of Bracebridge to look at these if they're going to consider doing impact assessments of boating. That would certainly be one that I would recommend.
Okay. Andrew. Oh, your mic's off again. Not sure if you had a comment to share on waterfronts. Okay, anybody else on waterfronts, waterfront policies? Okay, oh, Ian.
Yeah, I'd just like to say once again that I think the handling of condominiums,
Yeah,
particularly condominiums, in or near the waterfront is quite different from the rest of the town. It should be considered as such.
okay. Thank you. And Tom.
There are a few very large developments on the shoreline, which could be so much better. I'm going to say landscaped, but it's just the view from the lake could be so much improved.
Yeah.
And the view from the lake is important certainly to me and to all the people who are out on the tour boats and to, I think, a lot of us.
Yeah.
And there has to be some consideration given to the visual impact of developments from the lake. And in some cases that includes from people's property. And I'm thinking there of the development of the hotel in Gravenhurst, which is, really impacting a number of the island residents out there.
Okay. But
And
good point. The view.
We have our own.
Okay, the view from the water towards larger developments on shore, and what policy could maybe do to help encourage some landscape or buffering or some kind of setbacks or something.
Yeah, I think if you put a 40 or a 30-meter building or even a 20-meter building on top of a real elevation, it's totally different than if you put it down low with trees in front of it. So, but I don't know how we look at that.
Okay, thanks for that. Bob, is it something quick? And I'm going to move on.
Very quick.
Yep.
One of the questions was, should we have the same standards in town as out of town? I don't think we can. I think that particularly where urban services are available, it would be far too expensive to have lots that are minimum lot frontage of 200 feet on the water's edge. So I think there needs to be a different standard, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay. And Chuck, just before I close this one out.
Make a comment about the visualization from the water onto the land.
Yeah.
The Tahoe Regional Planning Agency in Lake Tahoe in Nevada and California has extensive policies relating to that. If you wanted to look,
Okay.
of course, that would give you some direction, perhaps.
Okay, terrific. Okay, Melissa, we'll push on to wrap up.
Perfect. Yeah, I think, Donna, we could probably go through the next few slides pretty quickly. So essentially, as we were mentioning, there were some questions we were looking at for tonight. The rest are just changes that are obviously going to be emphasizing throughout the process with regards to settlement areas are going to be the focus of growth and development. And we're going to be looking at implementing the same standards or the numbers that the District of Muskoka official plan is requiring for Bracebridge. The next slide is with regards to employment lands. And we're really just looking at throughout the official plan, we're going to be needing to include some policies with regards to employment area conversions, when those can occur. And then we have some other considerations that are going to be on the next slide. And there's things that are going to be looked at throughout this process as well with regards to how's the relationship with the Muskoka official plan. I have touched on it a few times here tonight with regards to the town can be more restrictive, but can't be less restrictive than the Muskoka official plan. So whether, you know, there's going to be duplication of the Muskoka official plan with policies within the town, whether they're just going to refer to the district official plan. So the relationship's going to be considered through this process as well. Urban design is just another element where the district official plan states area municipal official plan should contain more detailed policies addressing development in urban centers. And one of those items was urban design. And I think it came up earlier tonight with regards to climate change. So the provincial policy statement includes wording related to preparing for impacts of changing climate, increasing protection for the environment and human health. And the official plan will be updated to include this updated wording. And one of the other things that was touched on earlier was with regards to the duty to consult. So once again, the duty to consult will require an update within the official plan to include policies with regards to engagement and consultation with Indigenous communities. So those are things on top of the discussion items that we were talking about tonight that will be looked at for the policies within the updated official plan.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. And then the next steps.
Yeah, so the last slide that we have here tonight is this is where we are in the process. So as I mentioned, the request for proposal was put out by the Town of Bracebridge. It was set out to be conducted in 4 phases. Phase 1 has been conducted. That was the background review of the plans and policies. And there was an initial meeting with the working group. We're currently in phase 2 of the process, and that's the issue identification, the visioning, and the consultation. So there was a visioning workshop with the working group. We're right now having the consultation with the public, engaging them with regards to visioning. That's what you're participating in tonight. And then following this this session that we're going to have later tonight is going to be the last one that we have. There'll be a issue list that's going to be presented to council. So that's the phase 2 that we're currently in. To give you an overall view of where we're going to be, phase 3 is the draft official plan. That's what I said tonight. The discussion is going to lead into draft policies. And then phase 4 is the final official plan. So we're looking at the project being completed by the end of 2024. So it is a long process, but we're in phase 2 right now. And once again, we do thank everybody for taking the time out of their schedule tonight to participate and provide your opinions with regards to these items. So thank you.
Great. So I will wrap up the meeting on everyone's behalf. We're doing this all over again at 6:30 from 6:30 to 8. We're going through the same presentation and offering the same opportunities for conversation with those who participate. So thanks very much. Scott, is there something just in closing? Your hands up.
I just wanted to ask a question. On the previous slide, you mentioned things like climate change in the some urban built form discussion is like urban design. Is there going to be an opportunity to provide thoughts or input on those items?
So thank you. Yeah, essentially, as I said, the outcome of tonight's meeting would be the draft policies that are proposed for the Town of Bracebridge official plans. So throughout this entire process, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for comments specifically on how those policies are drafted. So that would be the next step for public consultation. And definitely, you know, any comments on those would be considered at that time.
So
Okay.
no input in advance of drafting those policies. I think that's the gist of Scott's question, but it sounds like we're going to focus it on responding to the team's first crack at those policy statements. And also nothing to stop you from, if you have ideas or comments or concerns about those topics, get it in to the town through the through the official plan webpage. There's a contact us link, so feel free to share those thoughts in advance. Okay, everyone, thanks so much. And I will sign off and end the recording. Thank you.